What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about 5 reasons why you should buy the Galaxy S10 5G in 2022. This is an awesome device, and I think a lot of you guys will really like this phone here. So let's go ahead and dive into it. My first thing about this phone is the display. It is a beautiful display here, and I think one of the most important things about this phone, so if you are a fan of the S10 series, the S10e has a 5.8 inch display, the S10 has a 6.1 inch display, and then the S10 Plus has a 6.4 inch display. So that might be a little small for you, but the S10 5G actually has a massive 6.7 inch display. So it has a bit more modern size for a flagship device, because most flagships these days are 6.7 to 6.8 inches. In some cases 6.9 inches. So this is a very big phone, and I think a lot of you guys will really like this form factor. As far as playing games and watching videos, it is still a very crispy and clear display on here. It's a dynamic AMOLED display. It is a 1440p panel as well, to 502 for the PPI, and it has a Gorilla Glass 6. It is a curved display, as you guys can see here, and I really like the display. Like I said, I like the S10 Plus display. I think it's big, but it's not too big. But this is the size of, like, you know, my OnePlus or something like that I really like. So you'll really like this display. It's just awesome, bright, vibrant display. And yeah, I've just been loving the size of this thing for watching content and stuff like that. It is really nice. All right, next is going to be the actual specs of this device here. So the power of this phone, it's really nice. So it is a Snapdragon 855 chip, you know, the same as with all the S10 series phones. But this is running Android 12 One UI 4.1 Adreno 640 GPU. Now, there's something about this phone that you might miss. So this phone does have 256 gigs of internal storage, and then you also have 8 gigs of RAM, but this phone does not have any SD card support like we know with the S10 series in general. So the reason why I wasn't so upset with this move, because the base storage is 256. Me personally, I've never been able to fill up a phone with 256 gigs of storage on it, but I do understand if you download a ton of content and stuff like that, then yes, of course you're going to, you know, that might bother you. You might really want that SD card support back. In that case, you would just go with the S10 Plus. But for me, you know, I've never been able to fill up a phone of this size, so it doesn't really affect me too much. Also, just to show you guys the Geekbench scores and stuff like that, here are your Geekbench scores. You can see how it compares. And the phone is still just very speedy in general running this One UI 4.1. It is very fast. So I have no issues with that, and especially at this price point, guys. This phone is around $282. You can find it a little bit cheaper actually on eBay. But yeah, so as far as the power of this phone, it's not really lagging or anything like that. It's always remained super silky smooth, and it's one thing that I absolutely love is performance is still top notch on an older flagship. And remember, guys, this will game better, you know, than, let's say, a Galaxy A52 5G as well too. So I'm going to drop a full gaming test for this phone, but remember, this phone will game better than most mid-rangers. So that's one thing that I really love about these older flagship phones, is that you get these phones pretty cheap and you get great performance. Alright, so next is going to be the additional features with this phone. So that's one of the perks of having an older flagship phone. So when this phone came out, not a lot of phones had 5G, so if you are really pressed on having 5G, this is definitely going to be great for that. So this phone is capable, but this phone still pretty much does what the newest S22 Ultra can do as far as feature wise. So Samsung desktop support is on here, Dolby Atmos, wireless power sharing is indeed on here as well too. So you can even charge other devices with this phone, no problem. It really has all the bells and whistles that you could want. It's IP68 dust and water resistant as well too. We have our under the display fingerprint sensor, which works really well. You also can take advantage of face unlock on this phone too. So there's really nothing feature wise that this phone can't do here. So I think the only thing you need to know, and I've made plenty of videos on this, is One UI 4.1 and Android 12 is the last major OS update. This phone is also currently in its security patch stages as well too. But as far as all your additional features, this phone has pretty much everything besides the SD card support. The headphone jack is also still on board with this phone as well for my diehard headphone users. And also, guys, you do have some excellent audio quality coming from these speakers as well. You hear that top speaker? So the speaker quality on here is just really awesome. Good bass, good mids and highs, just excellent crispy sounding speakers on here. So whatever you're doing, you're gonna have some nice speakers. Even if you cover up this one, the top speaker is still putting in a really good amount of work. And also the vibration motor is pretty strong on here as well too. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about is image quality. I think this is another highlight with this phone, especially for an older flagship. This does a phenomenal job with image quality. So you have a 12 megapixel standard, a 12 megapixel telephoto that does 2x optical zoom, and then you also have a 16 megapixel ultra wide and then a 0.3 depth sensor. And you also have on here 4K 60 video as well, which I'll let you see. And then you have a 10 megapixel selfie cam, and then it also has a 3D depth sensor up front too. It shoots in 4K 60, so that's why you have that dual punch hole up front if you didn't notice it. But image quality is pretty good on here. It's basically the same as the S10 Plus. It takes great shots, great detail, good dynamic range. The ultra wide is pretty close to the main lens. These older Galaxy phones, I noticed the colors can be a little bit oversaturated, but you can always edit it. Most people like that kind of, look where it kind of pops and everything. It's not quite true to life color, but it does still look really good. The depth sensor is really solid on here. It just takes great photos in general. The selfie cam is fine. It does kind of like the image smoothing that I'm not a huge fan of, but it does take great selfies for what it is. And yeah, image quality in general is just awesome. So I don't see anyone complaining about the cameras on here. Even in sort of like medium, not so well lit areas, it does a pretty good job. I'll also let you guys see the video as well. All right, so lastly, we're gonna talk about battery life. So how's the battery on here? I was really surprised to see that we actually get slightly better battery life. You guys know the S10 Plus has a 4100 milliamp battery. This has a 4500 milliamp battery. So it's not like dramatically better, especially, if you're using 5G, I'm sure it'll suck a little bit more power. So you might get actually the same battery life if you actually, are using the 5G. But this phone can easily do over 6 hours of screen on time very easily. So it's definitely an all day phone. It also has all the bells and whistles as far as, the battery goes with charging. You do have 25-watt charging and wireless charging at 15 watts, and then you also have that reverse wireless charging as well too. So battery life is very good on this device, so no complaints at all with the battery life. So overall, I really like the S10 5G. I love the build quality on here as well. As a just a side note, it's a really sleek, very slim, very premium feeling glass and metal phone. I still think the design looks pretty solid on here as well too. So overall, I think, what's not to love about this phone? I think the only thing you might not like is, again, the SD card support is going, but you do get a bigger screen and 5G support. So that's definitely something to think about. So what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.